Okay, so here's the thing, you guys. This is a little identity shifting training that I have made. I made this over the summer, and I got a lot of really good feedback on it. I'm doing this in collaboration with my friend Adrian. So Adrian is okay, awesome. Adrian is the moderator and owner of this Facebook group called the Mindfulness Effect. You've probably heard me say that 300 times at this point if you've been following along. I've been having some technical difficulties. I thought I could share the screen. I have a presentation that goes along with this, but I cannot quite figure out how to share the screen and my camera at the same time. But it's okay. You're going to enjoy this regardless. So, awesome. It looks like we're on. Thanks, Adrian, for having me. I hope everybody in the Mindfulness Effect group finds this really valuable. So I'm going to just kind of reiterate what this is all about. This is a training on identity shifting and subconscious mind reprogramming. We have to understand that our reality is a culmination of our thoughts, feelings, and actions, right? And so when we go within and we start within, right, before we try to manipulate the external world, we're going to find a lot more progress and a lot more, effective and potent results, shall we say, in life than if we go out and try to use this concept of force to change the external world. So this is going to be a deep dive training. I'm going to give you some tools that you can actually utilize more so than just, concepts, because concepts are effective in and of themselves, and we're going to start there, but I also want to give you guys some strategies that you can actually use to leverage this stuff. Because once we actually utilize technique, that's where the real shifts come from. So again, I apologize, you guys, because I can't share the actual presentation with you, but it's pretty simple. I'm going to talk you through it. Hopefully you get some value out of this. Really, this should not take any longer than 30 minutes or so. My goal really is more so than anything, right, is to introduce you to this concept and maybe further ingrain this concept if you're already familiar with the belief and the understanding that you can be, do, and have anything if you kind of have that faith, if you carry that faith that you are the overall power. And so we're going to start with some kind of etheric, kind of out there, bigger concepts about consciousness and all that. But hopefully, no matter where you are on this journey, if you find it to be easy to understand and easy to accept that you kind of are this fragment of God energy in a way, or if that's a little bit too far out of your comfort zone and you're just looking for ways that you can be a little bit more mindful, be a little bit more connected to your purpose, and maybe let go a little bit of negative energies and things that are holding you back. Adrian just called me, so I'm going to call him back. We're going to have Adrian live on the phone. Yo. What's up, man?
You were live.
Okay, I'm live. I think I'm live. It says I have two people.
Oh, okay. Okay. I don't know what's because all right, never mind. You're good then.
Okay, yeah. Just let me know if it connects to the pager or if it doesn't.
All right, cool. We'll do.
All right. All right, guys. This is a little bit complicated, but give me a couple more seconds, and we're gonna wait for him to connect. If you're following along, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop the questions. If not, water break. Okay. All right. He says it's good. Cool. So I'm just going to reiterate for those of you that just joined. This is basically the concept that identity shifting is basically just the concept that identity is what creates reality, right? There's this thing called the Robert Dilts model, logical levels of change. And he says we're live. That's good. That is great, in fact. But this concept basically just comes down to the fact that most of us are just reacting to our reality, right? We're looking around at the external environment and saying, this is how things are. We're confirming, right? We're using confirmation to say, this is how things are, kind of putting the power somewhere else. And then we're building our identity based on that. And my perspective, as somebody that has coached a lot of people, as somebody that has gone through, you know, the degrees of progress that kind of are required in a self-development journey from a really rough place. My perspective is basically just that people are kind of forging themselves based on their environment. They're looking around and saying, I need to, you know, cultivate capabilities. I need to cultivate my beliefs to make my life easier in contrast with the external world. And my perspective is really just this, that instead what we need to be doing is connecting to our visions and then creating our person based on those, right? So if we can be conscious and we can be, you know, more creative in our sense of reality and our sense of self, our environment becomes one that is much more incongruous with our visions and incongruous with this sense of purpose and a greater life beyond just one of reactionism and survival, essentially. So like I said, the reason that there's been so many technical difficulties so far is because I thought that I could share my screen with you and show you this presentation. And it's really only one or the other. I can do the camera or I can do the presentation. And the thing is, guys, that it's very simple text, so it's not going to blow your mind away just by reading this stuff. So without further ado, again, I think I've said this already, but I'm just going to go ahead and reiterate for those of you that just joined. The concept that you can do, be, and have anything you want is one that comes from many yogis, many spiritual teachers, and especially a lot of these new thought thinkers in the space of self-development, people like Neville Goddard or Joseph Murphy, if you're familiar with those names, kind of leverage this concept, right, that you can do, be, and have anything that you can dream. And the majority of people listen to that statement and they say that's kind of unrealistic. I can't abide by that simply because I've had so many experiences in my life of adversity, of things that I did not create, right? That I was simply reacting to, that came into my space and I had to survive in contrast with. Now, what we're going to be talking about is kind of looking at these experiences in a new perspective, right? And more so than anything, if I can show you these levels of, you know, perception, the way that you kind of look at reality, it's going to help you to really feel a lot more empowered and really start to believe more of that concept that I am creating everything and all of this stuff is really a manifestation of myself some way, somehow. Again, the reason that I created this training is basically because I see the majority of people reacting to their fears, reacting to their doubts, right? And then perceiving that as the way reality just works, right? They're using confirmation. And we're going to talk about that, these aspects of confirmation and affirmation a little bit more in the future. But first things first, I want to dive a little bit deeper and kind of give you guys some more background. So I think that I basically say that I've had the opportunity to test these things, right? To really test this concept of sticking to a vision, where your energy goes, where your attention goes, where your energy flows, and focusing more on the positive, right? Imagine that you can really only go in two directions. This is a concept from Tony Robbins, if any of you are familiar with Tony Robbins. He basically talks about there's no such thing as stagnation. There's only progress and there's regression. And somewhere, you're kind of somewhere on the sliding scale. And most of us kind of live our lives focused on the negative, right? We're focused on lack, bills, potential for loss of love, all of these different obligations that we perceive that we have to deal with, or else things are going to be, very challenging and potentially, we have the potential to lose it all. And that's kind of what we're focused on, this survival mentality. My perception is that things get a lot easier, right? And if you can accept that vision, that focus on positive energies and positive creation of reality and what it is that you really want to see manifest, if you can focus more on these things, that energy is going to help bring them more into your space. And so it's almost like this paradox of, by letting go of these negative influences and by these things that we fear, right? By kind of releasing that need to manipulate and that need to control, we're getting even closer to our goals. Now, this is a concept that I learned in depth from a book called Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and I highly recommend that you look into that book, because we're going to be kind of referencing a lot of these concepts of power versus force throughout this discussion. But really, it's just that your own human imagination and your own subconscious mind has the power to easily bring you the tools, the knowledge, and any other kind of resources, be they material or ephemeral, that can help you reach your goal. And all you have to do is understand that from a place of flow, from a place of calm, from a place of allowance, it becomes a lot easier. Versus from a place of where most people act from, which is that place of force, that need to, manipulate. So I just wanted to give you guys kind of a rundown of who I perceive this training to be for. And it's really 3 levels of people. So the first is really somebody that is looking for that paradigm shift, right? If you've tried a lot of different things and you're feeling like, something's got to work for you. This is really, I think a really powerful training because it's introducing a concept that is a lot more mental than really any other kind of real deliberate practice we could institute in our lives. I say that this is, number 1 is the person looking for a paradigm shift. Number 2 is the person looking to increase the quality of their life. This is kind of what I referenced earlier of, you've already tried a bunch of different things and you're looking for something that is really going to work. Because if you do put this stuff into practice, you guys, I guarantee it will bring forth some kind of change. And again, I have actual strategies that I'm going to show you later on. And then finally, if you're a person that does a lot in the ways of self-development, you already understand the power of repetition, in ingraining knowledge and ingraining practices, and just getting it better and better incrementally by really putting in the hours. And you realize that the mastermind council, that concept of bouncing ideas back and forth, connecting with other people, and expanding your network in the ways of value, as well as capacity and size, right? You understand these concepts. This is just going to be another little thing that you can implement, just another tool in your belt. So really 3 major things that we're going to do in this conversation, right? Number 1, talk about the fastest way to change everything. And that is identity shifting. Number 2, why and how to put yourself first. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and realize that focusing on yourself first really is the opposite of greed. If you are constantly looking for other ways that you can, I guess, like serve other people first, and you're kind of neglecting yourself, that's actually greed, and we're going to talk about that as well. And then finally, how to actually implement these strategies. This is not just like a, here's a bunch of concepts, think about it kind of thing. I really want you guys to leverage these concepts, and I do believe that the world will become a significantly better place if we can understand these powers of, identity programming and subconscious mind programming. So first things first, before we really saturate ourselves in vision, right? And the reason that we need to saturate ourselves in our vision is simply because, like we talked about earlier, where your attention goes, that's where your energy flows. And if you are constantly looking at all of the ways that things can go bad, you're kind of inviting all of these potentials in. If you prepare for the worst, you should expect the worst. Whereas, you should be prepared for the worst to some degree, but really focus on all of the positive outcomes that can come about. But first things first, we want to talk about kind of the reason why people don't get there just right off the bat. Now, I say that this is because your fears are really top of mind. And so let's dive into that a little bit deeper. The things that genuinely get in the way are fear, doubt, and indecision. Now, fears and doubts and indecisions come from the baggage that we are fed in the external world. And here's what I mean. When you first come into this life, right, you are a very raw, very creative, very natural being, right? You have very few fears, right? You're going out with this abundant expectation of possibility. There's no limitation. But as you start to grow up, as society starts to ingrain you with all of these realities that the collective perceives, you start to collect this baggage. And so one of the fundamental understandings that you have to carry with you on any kind of journey of growth is realizing that it's not about reaching out and getting something, right? It's not about pulling something new into your space. All it really is about letting go of the limiting beliefs. And so I mentioned at the beginning that I kind of have come across these concepts, and I've really started to build on these concepts as I became a coach, expanding beyond my own personal journey, and coaching other people first in the ways of health and fitness, then moving on to business consulting. And now I just consider myself a limiting beliefs coach, simply because across the board, that is the only thing that is holding anybody back. The bottom line is that the knowledge will come to you. The resources will come to you. It's really just about shifting your perspective to realize that they've always been there. It's just about you allowing them into your space and not rejecting them based on your preconceptions that have been constructed by an external world. So I talk here about what I consider to be the 6 basic fears. And I found this from a guy by the name of Napoleon Hill. He wrote Think and Grow Rich. And for those of you that aren't necessarily looking to create any kind of crazy financial empire or something, Think and Grow Rich is still an extremely powerful book because it explains how thinking really is the secret, right? And so he talks about these 6 basic fears that hold people back. The first is the fear of poverty. And so fear of poverty is focusing on debt, focusing on bills, focusing on, your financial situation from a perspective of, if I don't do this, I'm going to be screwed, right? Rather than looking at things from a perspective of where could I be. And so that's lack mentality, right? Fear of criticism, same kind of thing. If you're looking to create YouTube videos, maybe you're looking to, get into public speaking of some kind. There's a lot of reasons that your mind is probably going to come up with as to why you can't do it, why you're not going to be A1 right off the bat. And so this fear of criticism is simply going to hold you back from, taking risks, potentially getting huge rewards out of these risks, simply because you have these preconceived notions of how other people perceive you, right? Fear of ill health. This is why fad diets come up. This is why all of these kinds of, short-term exercise programs come into popularity and then quickly fall out, because people are looking for this secret, right? And there's not a secret, right? And so rather than acting from a place of abundance and realizing this is a lifelong journey, people are saying, they're looking at the potential negatives. They're looking at the potential worst case scenario and acting from that perspective. Loss of love, same kind of thing. You can infer your own realities. We've all probably experienced that, right? Fear of old age, fear of death, all of these things that sway our perspective and cause us to make decisions from a place of lack rather than a place of abundance. So we're going to talk about how we can overcome fear. And it's very simple. I've included an exercise, and you should be able to see this. I see that one of you is already in this exercise. There's a link. There should be a link in the in this actual training in the description. I'm going to go ahead and include it in the comments really quick. But I want you guys to follow along and join me. So I'm going to copy the link. And I'm going to paste it here in the comments. If you're watching on my page, boom, it's in the comments. If you're watching on Adrian's page, it should be there as well. I'm going to go ahead and post it there again. Fullness effect. All right. I'm going to, boom. It's in the comments on the mindfulness effect. All right, you guys. So it's pretty straightforward, though. So all you're really doing here, first and foremost, I want you to kind of consider all of the basic fears that you might be experiencing. What I want you guys to do is kind of, in this table below, figure out something related to this fear of poverty that you can connect with. And if you're on this document, you can go up to File, you can click Make a Copy, and then you save it to your Google Drive, and you can edit it as much as you want. I would recommend that you make a copy, then make a copy of that, so you can do this multiple times. But this is a very basic table that shows you kind of how to uproot limiting beliefs. And so what I'm doing here is I'm giving you 6 sections, right? And each section is related to one of these fears. And so what I want you to do is, beneath each fear, right? So related to poverty, write down something that you can connect to, right? So maybe your fear related to poverty is, I have more bills than I have money coming in, right? I don't know how. I don't have a strategy that I feel comfortable implementing to pay off all my debt, right? So that's what you would say is, I feel I'm experiencing XYZ. And as many as you can put here, that's really where the power is going to come from, right? Putting as much information down that you can then rewrite. So it might be, like I said, something related to debt, related to criticism. I'm afraid that if I start posting on my Facebook account about all the activism that I'm doing, I'm going to get a lot of criticism and my family is going to disown me or something like that. If you know Adrian, you might be somebody that is connected to activism. That guy's a really powerful activist. And so maybe that's your fear. Ill health. Maybe it's I'm afraid to schedule a doctor's appointment because I don't want to hear that there's something that is going wrong. Or I'm afraid that since I'm waking up every single morning with whatever it is, like all of this, mucus in my respiratory system, my health is quickly degrading and I don't know what to do about it. So all of these kinds of things related to loss of love. Maybe it's I don't really know how to connect to my partner anymore, and I see our relationship going in a negative direction. Once you've done as much as you can here, right, and again, as much as you can possibly put down, that's where the power is going to come from, because we're going to rewrite all of this stuff, right? So then what you're going to do is create on the other side here. So related to poverty, the opposite is abundance. So we're going to create some statements related to what we want to experience, right? And so your statement could be something like, I am so happy and grateful that all my debts are paid off and I'm saving XYZ amount of money every single month. And here's why we're doing this. Again, when you create a vision, the more that you can saturate yourself into the sensory data associated with that vision, the more likely you are to accept that that is already the case, and the more likely you are to move in that direction. And now, a lot of people are going to have a problem with this. A lot of people in the psychology community kind of will say that there's a problem with this because you're already kind of confirming that this is a truth, and then you're a lot less likely to take action towards that thing. Now, this is where consistency and identity shifting comes into play, rather than just one-off saying, I've already done this, like thinking you're going to trick your mind and then boom, that's just the way things work. What you're really trying to do here is create affirmations that you can come back to over and over and over again, because the more you saturate yourself into this 5 sensory data and really put yourself into that place of the wish fulfilled. Any of you guys are familiar with Neville Goddard? That's kind of a Neville Goddard concept. The more that you can do that, the more that you really start to embody that identity after you leave the practice. So say that this is part of your morning routine, right? Every single morning you're reading through these abundance affirmations. Every single morning you're reading through these acceptance affirmations. Every single morning you're reading through these affirmations related to progress, and you're saturating yourself into that state of being. Well, you're going to start to embody that person. You're going to start to take action associated with that. You're going to find it easier to just exist as that person in your day-to-day life. But it comes with repetition, right? It comes with continuing to do this practice over and over and over again, and associated with the next practice. But let's just go back through this. So related to abundance, it could be, I'm so happy and grateful that my business is, doing really well, or I'm so happy and grateful that I'm appreciated at my job, and my management is constantly pointing out the incredible work that I'm doing, and telling me how grateful they are that I'm part of the team. Related to appreciation, my body is an absolute temple, and I'm doing my very best to take care of it. Every single morning, I look at myself and I feel this overwhelming sense of health. I am working more and more to align myself with a strategy for my health and fitness that is really making me feel absolutely abundant with this sense of youthful, healthy energy. And these are things that you're going to have to kind of work on to build comfort with. The more that you do this, the more that you'll really understand that the bottom line is it just needs to resonate with you, right? Write these in a way that you feel good when you read them, right? They should evoke that sense of being whatever it is that you're trying to be. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it just takes work, you guys. And you can always reach out to me if you have any questions about this, but follow the prompt here, right? The things that I'm saying above, where I'm saying it already is, right? That's writing in the present state of being, I am. And then we're adding emotional words to it, like so confident, I love, right? It adds emotion and adds that real sense of zest to this. Again, because all you're trying to do is saturate yourself into that state of being. So you can kind of work on some of these right now if you want. I'm going to bounce back to the other notes that I had. But the bottom line is this is kind of how you very deliberately rewrite subconscious blocks, right? This is how you very deliberately rewrite these issues that are holding you back, right? These limitations. And by rewriting your beliefs and by stating what it is that you want to create from a perspective of already being there and continuing to do it over and over and over again, you're going to start to see progress again, just because that is where your perspective is going. You're focusing on vision rather than reacting to the external world. We're going to talk about that in a second here. So let's see. I just say here that really fundamentally you are the creator of your own experience, and radical responsibility is what we're doing here, right? We're claiming that sense of I'm creating everything. And so rather than looking at the external world as far as what can I create, or what do I need to react to, how do I need to respond, we're really looking within first and saying, what is it that I want to see? And this is something that you need to be doing in conjunction with the mindfulness journey of, lessening your reaction, right? I think a lot of people, when they first start to hear these concepts and it sounds really attractive, right? Like all of this stuff, oh, I can create any kind of reality I want. So they'll start to believe this stuff, but then they'll start to look at the external world as like, well, why is this happening? Why is all this stuff happening? Did I do this? That's where these kind of basic mindfulness strategies come into play, of not reacting and forgiving yourself and looking at the external world and saying, well, even if I did create this stuff, the point is not to beat myself up. The point is to look at this stuff and say, this is data. This is information that I can reflect upon, go back within myself and say, where along the line of the belief track did this stuff first manifest, right? When, when these negative health effects first came to be, where was it along the journey of my actions and my thought process that this originated? And you can go back to that point and really start to reflect on that and really consider where that was, and then take new action right from the present moment. The present moment's the only moment that you have to actually cause change. But the bottom line is, don't look at this stuff as an excuse to further beat yourself up, right? If that's your perspective, something's wrong. It's really just information to reflect upon, and that should be very empowering. I'm gonna take a quick sip of water here. So the next thing I show you guys is the DILT's logical levels of change, like I said. And we're just kind of reiterating a lot of the same points here that, like I said, most people kind of start with the environment and build themselves up based on their environment. They're kind of forming their behaviors, and those behaviors are creating their perception of their capabilities. From those capabilities and behaviors, they start to kind of form their values and beliefs of the way they perceive things to be, their confirmations. And then all of that is forming their identity. And very few people even get to purpose. Very few people are even considering purpose, other than just kind of like a pipe dream that they talk about with people, but very seldom actually take action on. Whereas what we really want to be doing is from the top down. We want to start with our purpose. What is it that we want to see created in the world, in our lives? That should form our identity, right? Who we need to be to show up and really make this happen for us. That then forms our values and beliefs, right? What values and beliefs we need to have to go out and really see this materialize. And that would be fundamentally the perspective that you can do, be, and have anything. You need to start there. And then that creates capabilities that you form yourself, behaviors that you are conscious about formulating, which all formulates your environment that you see materialized around you. And so we need to really get in touch with our purpose, right? So one of the things that I'm going to challenge you to do in this training is to consider what it is that you want to create, barring all of the limiting factors that are most likely in your mind somewhere. What we're trying to do here is bring forth our subconscious mind and allow it to be impressed without the thinking mind, the logical mind, the conscious mind, getting in the way and saying, well, here's all of the reasons why this can't happen. So now what we're going to do is something a little bit different. For those of you that are still watching, what I want to do is I'm going to challenge you to do a short exercise with me. So you should go back to the Google Doc, and you're going to go down a little bit. You can read this stuff later on if you want, just to kind of really start to re-engage with it, right? Really kind of re-solidify this knowledge in your own mind. But what I'm going to show you how to do right now is a very short meditation on connecting with your higher self. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a breathing exercise, but then I'm going to ask you to go through these 3 stages of life. The reason that we're doing the breathing exercise and the higher conscious, the higher self meditation is just for this reason, so that we can confidently, without limitations, consider if everything were to go as ideal as possible, right? What would my life look like 90 days from now? What would my life look like 1 year from now? And then what would my life look like 5 years from now? Okay. And you're most likely going to have to do this on your own. And I highly recommend that you take, as much time as you want to do this on your own. Again, you guys, because saturating in the vision is very, very powerful. And the more that you can do that, the more consistently and the more presently you can do that, the more value you're going to get out of this stuff. But first things first, prepare yourself, just kind of start allowing these possibilities of, the most ideal version of your life 90 days from now, a year from now, and 5 years from now. And start to bring yourself to that place of considering the future, right? Considering the future vision. Okay? And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and do this at your own pace. I'm going to take a sip of water real quick. So first things first, we're going to run through a very quick breathing exercise. Okay? And I'm going to ask you to breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds, and then you're going to hold for 5 to 7 seconds. And then you're going to exhale through your mouth for 8 seconds. This is a breathing exercise that was taught to me by an excellent coach, Sanjay. Sanjay, if you're watching this, you're awesome, man. And this is a breathing exercise, and I use very similar breathing exercises with my clients as well, because it really does help us to calm the logical mind and find our center. So I'm going to guide you through 5 repetitions of this breathing, and then we're going to talk about connecting with our higher self. So first things first, you guys, I want you to breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds. So begin. And then hold. And then exhale through your mouth. In through the nose. And then hold. And then exhale through your mouth. In through the nose. And then hold. And then exhale through your mouth. Two more. In through the nose. Hold. And exhale through your mouth. Last one. In through the nose. And hold. And exhale through your mouth. Now what I'm going to invite you to do is find your center. For a lot of you, that's your heart center, and you can feel into the space where your heart is and kind of feel that electromagnetic energy. Maybe it's the base of your neck and your spine. Maybe it's in your sacral chakra space, so that's the area just below your navel. Wherever it is for you, I just want you to take a couple seconds and feel into that space. I want you to imagine electromagnetic energy kind of pushing out. And as that sphere gets bigger and bigger, it starts to encapsulate all of your body. Feel all of your body in space. What we're going to do next is feel that sphere expand even further. And feel that sphere expand beyond just the space of the room that you're in right now. And once you feel that genuine sense of emptiness around you, realize that this is the truth of the present moment. The past, the future, these are all just perspectives of the present moment. And all things exist here, now. And so now what we're going to do is I invite you to bring your awareness to the space within your head. And once you're there, in that emptiness, in that space, I want you to find the space in between your ears, and then just a little bit back, toward the back of your head, and then toward the crown of your head. And we call this the space that the higher self exists in. And what we're going to be doing is I want you to choose a timeline. And this timeline should be 15 to 20 years from now. And I want you to imagine that everything in your life has gone exactly as you'd like it to go. If you could have the perfect ideal outcome, the most ideal outcome, you are now in the shoes of that version of you. And so I want you to consider your physical health. What kind of shape are you in? What are you doing for exercise on a regular basis? How are you eating? How are you sleeping? And now I want you to consider your spiritual health, your spiritual life. How does your mind feel? How are your emotions on a regular basis? And now move on to thinking about your finances. What's the health of your finances like? How do you feel about them? And now I want you to think about your career, or maybe you are a business owner. How are things going? How connected do you feel to your purpose? How do you feel about the value that you're adding to the world? And now I want you to think about your family, maybe your love life as well. How do you feel about the people that are around you? Do you feel supported? Do you feel heard? How do they treat you on a regular basis? How are you showing up for them? And I want you to really feel into this version of yourself. As you are this higher self, what kinds of environments do you find yourself in? Who's with you at this stage in your life? How do you feel physically, mentally, emotionally? I want you to look around. Try to take as much sensory information from this as you can. Really put yourself into that perspective of that person. And in just 10 seconds, I'm going to ask you to connect with them. And then begin to come back to your body here. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. So that was a very short version of what it's like to really use an identity shifting meditation. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is, in this handout exercise that I have here for you guys, I want you to do that meditation again, right? And of course, when you have time, and we're pretty much finished here, we've got a couple more minutes, but take some time and do this meditation. First and foremost, calm yourself, right? Then you really want to put yourself into that perspective of being this person, and then reflect, right? So maybe do this once a day for the next 3 days, right? Do that meditation, and then really put yourself into, if everything were to go as swimmingly, as smoothly, as wonderfully as it possibly could in the next 90 days, what would the outcome be? In these different areas of life, right? Write down what you consider to be these major areas of life that you're ready to see some progress in. And then what your higher self tells you, what that higher self is already perceiving, write these things down. And you can use the prompt above, right? Using the I am statements, using those emotion words, right? And then flesh out as much as you can for that 90 days. You know, I feel really confident with my diet, my fitness strategy. I'm feeling really consistent with my sleep schedule. Overall, I just feel so calm. I feel so connected to my purpose, and I can see massive progress happening every single day. And it really just fills me up with so much hope. Same thing for a year from now. Same thing for 5 years from now. And the more that you can put here, right? The more that you can make this a blueprint, something that really feels good to focus on, and really feels good to say, this is the direction that I'm going in. That's where the power comes from. So finally, what you need, right, is a real specific strategy that makes this work for you, right? So ultimately, one of the things that we need to be focusing on is like raising our vibration. A lot of these people talk about raising your vibration, right? Well, what does that mean? All it really means is just focusing on things that you love, focusing on things that make you feel passionate and help you enjoy life. Next, overriding limiting beliefs, and then creating visions that you can follow along with. I have a program that I go a lot deeper on this kind of stuff, but these bare bones methodologies are really all you need, guys. And if you leverage this stuff every single day, you are going to see massive progress. But both of these things, the things that you love, right? Listening to music, jumping rope, walking your dog, don't hesitate to write something down that feels good. I mean, if there are things like drugs and alcohol that feel good but also have this massive drop on the other end, this huge downside to them, I wouldn't say write those things down, because your subconscious mind knows that, hey, this makes me feel good in the moment, but long term it doesn't make me feel so good. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about wholesome, genuine, overall 100% positive things that work for you. Right? So write as many of those things down, make a list. Then the mental methodologies, and then a schedule. Right? If you do not plan to succeed, you plan to fail. You feel good, and you can hijack your vibe, guys. That's okay. Listening to upbeat music, watching comedy sketches, whatever makes you feel good, use that. Don't say that, oh, that's dumb and it's artificial or something like that. It doesn't matter. Life is really all about the feeling. The feeling is the secret. And so then leveraging these mental methodologies to focus on your visions and overwrite your limiting beliefs every single day on a regular basis, that is what is going to shift you, right? Realizing that you can feel however you want. You can think however you want, but it does require you to overwrite the programming that's been fed to you by society, by your limiting beliefs and by your lack mentality, really, for as long as you've been alive, right? If you're 35, you've been spending 35 years up until this point, most likely programming yourself in a lot of ways that are very disempowering. And so be willing to commit to this. But I guarantee you, just 20 minutes of this stuff every single day, if you commit to every single day writing down, what are my limiting beliefs, and then rewriting them every single day, asking yourself, what do I want? And then fearlessly considering those desires, you can craft any kind of person that you want, but it takes consistency. So without further ado, you guys, this is a great tool. Save this exercises to master identity shifting. This isn't going anywhere. You can have this totally free. I'm not going to shoot you an invoice after this. But yeah, save this and leverage this every single day. You're going to find a lot of benefit. Without further ado, I will answer any questions that are posted in the Mindfulness Effect Facebook group or on my personal page if you guys just want to drop them in the comments. But thank you to everybody that's joined in. I know this has been a long training, but I hope you guys have really gotten a lot of value out of this. Thank you so much to Adrian for welcoming this and being willing to do this with me. Adrian's an amazing teacher, amazing coach. I highly recommend to everybody that is watching on my personal stuff, go check out his page. Totally worth the follow on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere that he's available, just to get those good vibes on your timeline, you guys. So big shouts out to him. And also to you guys, being willing to be here. This is not an easy journey, right? The realization journey, the self-realization journey is not one that just is a flip of a switch. It takes time, it takes effort. But the fact that you guys have sat through this for almost an hour proves that you're on the journey. And you're so much closer. You're so much closer, you guys. Put this stuff into action. I appreciate you. But until next time, much love. See you later. Bye-bye.